Hello, good morning everyone. Today we are going to discuss functions in Python. Actually, the three videos already I have uploaded about it, and this is the fourth video. And here today's topic, just we will take scope of the variables and mutability and immutability of variables. If you have gone through all the first three videos, then you can understand it very easily. The first one I'm going to discuss you the functions scope and lifetime of a variable. Means in a function, what will be the scope of that particular variable? So actually here, first you should be very clear about the scope. It means what actually is the scope of the variables. Whenever you are going to write any program, in that particular program you have to declare some variables so that these variables can be declared outside the function or inside the function. So when you declare the variables inside the function, in that case where you can access or uh, where you can access that particular variable either only inside that function or outside that function. And in another case, if you declare the variable outside the function, so can you access that variable inside of any other function or throughout the program? So a very simple idea of scope is the accessibility of the variable. Either you can access that variable throughout the program or in the limited portion of that particular program. So here I'll just explain to you these two types of scopes are there. The number one is a local scope and the number two is a global scope. So first we'll discuss about the local scope. Variable used inside the body of the function. It means the variable which you have declared inside the function's body, those variable will be treated as a local variable. So it cannot be accessed outside the function and they are destroyed once we return from the function. Hence, a function does not remember the value of the variable from its previous call. In the next example, I'll explain to you. And the other side, we have a global scope. Global scope means once you have declared the variable outside the function, that variable can be accessed throughout the program, inside any function or outside any function, inside of any one function, two function, or any number of functions are there, you can access that variable. Now through the example, I'll explain to you. Here the example for the local scope. Just I am defining one function here and the function name is square, and in that particular function I am declaring one variable and this is x. So this x I am declaring inside of this function is square. The function name is square. So this variable, this x will be treated as a local variable. This x will be treated as a local variable. Why this will be treated as a local variable? If you will access this variable x here in the main function, you cannot access this variable here because its accessibility is only inside this function. Outside of this function, the accessibility is not there. So it means that whenever you are coming out from this function, so the existence of this variable will be destroyed. I hope it should be clear that here you can understand also a variable x is declared inside a square will be treated as a local variable and it cannot be accessed outside it. It means outside the square you cannot access it. I think it should be clear that the variable declared inside any function cannot be accessed outside of the function. So it has a limited access. That's why it is called a local variable. Now come to the global variable or for the global scope. So now here I have declared one variable glb. glb means for the global I have given this name, and then I am declaring one function global variable. Here now I have given the value for this GLV equal to 10, and I am printing this value inside the function global variable and outside the function of global variable. It means in the main function. This is our main function. So inside the main function I am accessing this, and inside the function global variable, this function I am accessing this variable. It means that this GLV I am accessing at two places, one at the inside of the function global variable and once in a main function. So now this variable can be accessed inside the function as well as outside the function. It means this variable can be accessed throughout the program wherever you want to access it. That's why it has a global access. It means it can be accessed anywhere. It means it has a global access. Now here we can see the variable GLV can be accessed anywhere, either inside the function or outside the function. That's why it is treated as a global variable. I hope it should be clear. Very simple, that if the function is declared outside the function, if the variable is declared outside the function, that variable can be accessed anywhere in the program. It means that variable can be accessed globally. That's why that's a global variable, and or it has a global scope. And if the variable is declared inside any particular function, so that variable has a limited access only in that particular function, as in the case of square here. So it has a local scope. So the variable accessed in a limited portion has a local scope, and the variable accessed throughout the program has a global access. So the local variable as well as a global variable, or in another word you can say that the local scope and the global scope. Global scope means the accessibility is throughout the program, and the local scope means the accessibility is only to the limited portion. I think it should be clear. Now come to the next one. It's a very important concept. We have already discussed about the function arguments. Now these arguments can be accessed, when we are passing the argument through the functions. So the function have a mutability, the variable have a mutability and immutability. It means the variable what you have passed through the arguments, if we are changing the value of that argument, it can be changed or it cannot be changed. So when the variable is, or when the changes are reflected back to the main function, it means it has a mutability. And if the variable doesn't reflect its executed value or changed value to the main function, it means it's a immutable variable. So through just you can see here, when you pass the values through the argument and parameter to a function, mutability and immutability plays an important role. Here through the example I'll explain to you. See this function definition and function a equal to a cross 10. I'm just changing the value. This through argument we are getting the value of a equal to a into 10, print inside the function a. Now I'm printing the value a inside this function. So what will be the value of a? You are passing 10, so 10 into 10, it will be 100. So what will be the value here? It will print 100. But when you will print this value here after function call, you have called here, the value of a will be printed 100. Now after calling the function once again, I am printing the value of x. So this x will be printed 10. It means the value of x, what you have passed to a, will not be changed, or the changes will not be reflected back to the main function. So in the main function you have written x, the value of x you have passed to a, the value a you have changed here, the changed value is 100. But when you will come back to the main function, so the value of x will be same or there will be no changes in that value. It means this is a immutable. The value of a is not changing, or the changes in the function what we have done are not reflected back to the variable x. So very simple conclusion is, if we are passing any variable, you are changing in the value of that variable, and if those changes are not reflecting back to the original variable, then it is the immutable variable. So what the next in this one, the conclusion, you can see that here the value of x remain the same even the function of a is changed, so the changes will not be reflected back. I think it should be clear. Very simple, that when you are passing the value and if the changes are not reflecting back to the original value, then means that the variable is immutable. Now another concept I'll just explain to you about the mutability. Now I'm defining another function, and the function name is the function 2, and here just very simple, you can see that here we are passing a list through the function or through the argument, and I'm printing here first print list received. What we have received I'm printing here, then I'm changing the value of the list, and then once again I'm printing here. So here also we are printing before passing the value, and then after we are calling it here, and after calling once again we are printing the value of list. Once again you just see the example. What actually is the example? You are passing this list 1, you are passing this list 1 here, you have changed the value of list here, and then you have printed before changing the value and after changing the value, and then in the main function, this is your main function, in the main function also you are printing the value after calling this function 2. So what will happen here when you are changing the value here? So you are passing the value 1, now you are adding here 5, so 5 plus 1 will be 6. So here first here 1 will be printed, here 6 will be printed, here 1 will be printed, and here 6 will be printed. It means in this here. So after adding the value 5, the value will become 6 here at this place. Now the same is reflecting back here also. So it means the value is getting changed, or the changes are reflecting back to the main function. That's why it is a mutable. The conclusion is that here you can see that here the value before calling will be 1, but after calling it will be 6. It means the changes will be reflected when we return from the function to main function. I hope it should be clear that when you are passing the value through the function or through the parameter from one function to another function, you are changing the value of that list or that variable in the function. If changes are reflecting back to the original value in the main function, it means the values are getting changed. So if the values are getting changed, if the values of the variables are getting changed, it means that the variable is mutable. So the final conclusion is, in immutable and mutable, when you are passing the variable, so mutability means the changes will be reflected back to the original variable into the main function, and immutability means the changes will not be reflected back to the original variable what you have passed in the main function or any other function from where you have passed it. I hope it should be clear. It's a very important concept. Now you see some assignments I'm giving to you. So the first assignment is what is the significance of having function in a program. The second is write a program using function to print the table of any number. What you have to do, you have to pass the number through the function, and it will just print it. It will just print the table of that particular number, but through the function only. Then the third question is this one, and the fourth question is then just you go through this one, do this exercise, do these assignments, and send me back. Thank you very much.